mga anak ni Shakespeare, this is Tian, and welcome back to my channel.
On this video, we will be dealing with the introductory part of a topic in creative nonfiction for you to be able to attain the most essential learning competency, which is the first MELC in creative nonfiction, which is to create samples of the different literary elements based on your experiences. At the same time, for you to analyze and interpret the theme and techniques used in a particular text. As I have said on my previous video, you are free to shut down, and if you don't understand a part of this topic, you are free to get back on that part of the video. Are you ready? Let's start! Today in this video, we will be discussing the relationship of fiction and creative nonfiction. In particular, we will be discussing the different conventions of fiction and its essentiality in studying creative nonfiction. But before that, I would just like to share this quote given by Stephen Wright about fiction and nonfiction, after which I want you to share your experience or understanding about this quotation. The idea of fiction and nonfiction are indeed inseparable. If one negates the other, then the other complements it. However, the difference of these two is obscure or unclear, especially when we are reading and even writing literary text. But basically, fiction is a product of imagination, and nonfiction is based on facts. Now let's have this activity. This activity is entitled Going Back. In this activity, I want you to think of one of your happiest experience, and on any sheet of pad paper, I want you to write in bullet form the details of that experience. You can take a pause of this video for you to accomplish that going back activity. Are you done? Great! It is just a warm-up activity. To continue, let us close read what you have written on that piece of pad paper by means of checking if these following elements are present for you to come up with a certain piece. Plot, point of view, characters, setting, tone and atmosphere, symbol and irony, and we also have theme and meaning. If you are not familiar with this, let us go back with your knowledge of the different elements of short story. At the same time, if you already know, let us supplement your knowledge regarding these narrative conventions of fiction. The first one is plot. The plot is the structural development of the story. It includes what happens in a story, to whom, at the same time, to when. Or particularly, it is the arrangement of events, what happened first and what comes next. Plot has four parts. We have the beginning, wherein the characters and setting were introduced. We have the middle, wherein the conflict was introduced. And the climax, wherein the part where the character solves the problem or the conflict presented on the middle part. And the end, or particularly, we also call it as the conclusion or the denouement or the resolution. The next element or convention is the point of view. It is the angle from which the story is being told, or it is the author's choice of narrator and the relation of the narrator to both the reader and the fictional world they describe. And there are two kinds of point of view. First, we have the first person, or what we call the I point of view. In here, the story is being presented from the perspective of a character within the story, or sometimes it is usually the protagonist. And we also have third person point of view, or what we call the he or she point of view, wherein the narrator knows everything about every character in the story. We also have limited point of view and omniscient point of view. In the omniscient point of view, the narrator knows everything about every character and has an unlimited knowledge of time, people, places within the story. In contrary to that of the limited person point of view, in here, the narrator knows everything about every character, but the reader only has an access to one character. The next convention is characters. Characters are the ones inhabiting and doing actions in the story. It gives us the hook into a story by giving us a human element to relate through characters, wherein authors can explore different themes and ideas. And take note, not all characters are human in the story, because even animals can do, and that is a fable. There are also two types of characters. First, we have the major characters, who are the main characters, which include the protagonist and the antagonist in the story. We all know that the protagonist is the central character in the story, and the antagonist is the character who opposes the main character or the protagonist. We also have minor characters, or the supporting characters in the story. They may be someone we have a limited information to know about, or they are those characters who emphasizes the traits of the main character by contrast. A character may also be complex and simple. Those complex characters are those who have a shift of their characters. That is why they are being called round and dynamic. A dynamic character changes because of some events in the story. In contrary, simple characters are those who don't have any change throughout the story. That is why they are being called flat or static. Static characters are those who stays the same throughout the story. And also, foil characters are those who are being established to emphasize the traits of the main character by contrast. The next convention is setting. It is the time and the place of the story. The time setting is literally the time in which the story is set. It can refer to the time of the day or a season. And the place or the setting or the place setting is where a story is being set. It may be in general or in a geographical location or in a particular country or even in school. The next convention is the tone. The tone describes the way the voice of a text is being delivered, or it is the attitude of the writer towards his or her material. For example, the tone in a passage of writing could be friendly, angry, or even persuasive. The next convention is the atmosphere. Sometimes it is being called mood and is closely related with tone. But what is the difference of the atmosphere to that of the tone? If the tone is the feeling of the author when he or she wrote that masterpiece, then, in contrary, the atmosphere is the feeling that the author is trying to establish, which is often created through the use of descriptive words to form vivid images or imagery. And the next one is symbol. A symbol lends meaning and depth to a piece of fiction and encourages the reader to consider the story on another level. Symbols are also often used to convey themes in the text. A symbol may be a person, a place, an event, or even an object, which has a meaning in itself but suggests other meanings as well. Our second to the last convention is irony. Irony is a literary device in which contradictory statements or situations reveal a reality that is different from what appears to be true. And there are three types of irony. We have verbal irony, situational irony, and dramatic irony. In verbal irony, the speaker speaks something contradictory to what he intends to say. To define it simply, It occurs when a character uses a statement with underlying meanings that contrast with its literal meaning. The next one is situational irony. In situational irony, it occurs when incongruity appears between the expectation of the readers on something to happen to what actually happens instead. The last one is dramatic irony. Dramatic irony occurs when the audience knows something that some characters in the narrative or in the play do not. Thus, the spectator of the play or the reader has information that at least some of the characters are unaware of. The last convention is the theme. The theme is the central idea or the topic being explored in the text. The theme is the central subject that the text is all about. It can be summed up into a few words. For example, in relationships, cultural differences, environmental destruction, and human nature. A written piece may have several themes. Themes often explore universal ideas. Thus, it includes observations of life and people. Sometimes, themes are usually implied rather than stated explicitly. So those are the different conventions of fiction. Convention of fiction refers to the elements used and techniques employed by the writer to make meaning and give life to a piece of writing. These narrative conventions serve as your guide to make a written work more vivid, interesting, and significant. Moreover, these conventions allow you to produce and organize a systematized output. So these are as follows. If you have something you don't understand on a discussion, you are free to visit your notes or you can go back to that part of the video. If none, let's have this activity. This activity is entitled Let's Try. In this, I want you to answer the following questions or statements and choose the letter of the correct answer. Are you ready? Let's start! Excellent, mga anak ni Shakespeare. Did you get a total score of 5 over 5? Very good. It really means that you really do understand the discussion. And now, you are ready to our next activity, which is the reading time activity. I want you to read the story on How My Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife, written by Manuel Argilia on this link, and try to comprehend it using this graphic organizer. Congratulations! If you are done accomplishing that graphic organizer, you are now ready to share that to your classmates and even to your friends. Now, to generalize, how can these conventions of fiction help you in writing nonfiction? Generally, these conventions of fiction will help you as jumping off points in writing nonfiction text. because we cannot deny that sometimes characters, plot, and even settings in stories are real-life events or people. So these narrative conventions will serve as a guide for you to make a written piece organized at the same time significant through the help of these narrative conventions. At this moment in time, I know that you can now create samples of the different literary elements based on your own experience. Use that going back activity to create those samples. At the same time, you can now analyze and interpret the theme and techniques using a particular text. I am confident that you can. I hope that you have learned something on this video, but don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and hit the notification bell for you to be updated on my next video. Again, learn, share, and let us grow together.